Most men crumble not because the world is cruel, but because they believe it should be kind. Power belongs to the mind that accepts cruelty as the natural order and learns to master it. In this lesson, I will show you how to become untouchable, not by hiding from pain, but by turning it into armor sharper than fear itself. Every generation breeds the same delusion, the belief that goodness alone ensures survival. Yet history writes a different truth. Those who endure are those who understand the silent laws that govern men. The laws of fear, control, and perception. The weak drown in emotion, the powerful swim through deception. To be mentally untouchable is not to be free from attack, but to become indifferent to it. It is to see the world as a chessboard where sentiment clouds reason and mercy invites betrayal. Tonight, I shall reveal 7 lessons forged in the fire of human deceit. Lessons that teach you not merely to defend your mind, but to weaponize it. Pain is the first tutor of power. It strips away illusion faster than philosophy ever could. Yet most men waste their pain, they drown in it, naming it tragedy instead of training. You, if you wish to become untouchable, must treat every wound as instruction. The world will provoke you. It will insult, betray, and tempt you into emotional reaction, because that is how men are controlled. The first to lose his temper loses his power. The one who feels too quickly moves too soon. The moment you react, you surrender the crown of reason to the mob of emotion. Tell me, who rules a nation more effectively, the man who loves his people or the man who understands them? Love blinds, understanding commands. To lead, to dominate, to endure. You must become a mirror polished by discipline, reflecting others' chaos but never distorting your calm. Think of Caesar in the Senate, surrounded by envy disguised as friendship. Each man smiling, each hiding the blade. Caesar's greatness was not in his conquests, but in his composure. He understood that emotion is the leash by which powerful men are led to slaughter. His calm was both his weapon and his downfall. For the day he let sentiment override judgment, he walked into the Senate unguarded, trusting those he had already conquered. That is the cost of emotion. Detachment, then, is not indifference. It is strategy. It is the art of standing in the storm and watching lightning strike without flinching. The weak call it coldness, the wise call it control. When you detach, you see hidden motives. You hear what others do not say. You notice the tremor in the voice, the hesitation in the lie, the hunger behind the praise. Emotion clouds this vision like fog over the battlefield. Detachment clears it. Every tyrant who fell began with outrage. Every king who lasted learned restraint. You must learn the same. Modern men speak of being authentic, as if truth is found in unfiltered emotion. But truth is not raw, it is refined. The man who pours out every feeling is not honest, he is undisciplined. And undisciplined men become pawns in the games of those who are not. Observe how easily emotion can be used against you. A single insult can bait you into revealing weakness. A clever manipulator will provoke your pride, your anger, or your pity. They do not need to defeat you, they only need to make you lose control. Once they own your mood, they own your mind. So learn to pause. Before you speak, before you strike, before you react, pause. The pause is where power lives. Within it lies choice. Within it, you become unpredictable. The disciplined mind does not suppress feeling, it repurposes it. Anger becomes analysis. Fear becomes focus. Pain becomes precision. The emotions still exist, but you are their master, not their victim. In politics, in war, in love. This mastery is the difference between the victor and the destroyed. Consider Catherine de' Medici. Surrounded by treacherous nobles, she survived decades of court intrigue by remaining unreadable. Her charm concealed calculation, her tears, manipulation. Her rivals mistook her softness for surrender, until their heads adorned her banquet tables. She understood the secret emotion is a performance, not a confession. You, too, must learn to perform it when necessary, but never to believe it. Feel, but never show more than you intend. Show anger only when it serves a purpose. Show joy only when it disarms suspicion. To the wise, emotion is a mask, one worn, not lived in. Ask yourself, how many battles have you lost to your own reactions? How many opportunities died because you sought comfort over control? The world owes you no understanding. It only measures your composure. When you master detachment, the insults of others become irrelevant, their praise meaningless. You begin to move through chaos like a ghost, untouchable, unbothered, unseen in your true intent. Your silence begins to frighten those who once mocked you. Your calm provokes their insecurity. They begin to reveal themselves while you remain still. That is the power of emotional discipline. It does not shout. It watches. It waits. And then it acts with precision when others are exhausted by impulse. So learn to withhold reaction. Cultivate the stillness that unnerves. Let others drown in the noise of their feelings while you write the outcome in silence. Because in the end, the most dangerous man in any room is not the one who burns with passion, but the one who can stand in the fire and feel nothing but clarity. And that is where the next lesson begins. Words are the currency of fools. Men spend them recklessly, believing that noise equals influence. Yet every great manipulator, every enduring ruler, every master of human nature has understood one truth: silence is the rarest and most expensive form of power. To be silent is to be underestimated. To be silent is to listen while others reveal themselves. To be silent is to rule conversations without speaking a single word. The world trains you to speak, to express, to explain, to justify. But understand this: the more you speak, the more predictable you become. And the predictable man is the easiest to destroy. Tell me, what is more dangerous in a negotiation, the man who argues desperately, or the one who watches, expressionless, as others talk themselves into weakness? Silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. Look through history. The men who shaped empires did not shout. They observed. They waited. Then, with a few deliberate words, or with none, they bent nations to their will. Consider the story of Ferdinand of Aragon. When rival kingdoms surrounded him with demands and promises, he rarely spoke his plans. He allowed others to speculate, to fill the silence with their assumptions. And while they argued about what he might do, he was already doing it. His silence became confusion, and confusion became victory. That is the first rule of strategic silence. Those who must know what you think will betray themselves trying to guess it. Silence forces others to expose their intentions. People cannot endure a void of words. They will fill it with their fears, their desires, their confessions. Listen long enough, and they will tell you how to destroy them. In psychology, this is known as the compulsion to complete patterns. The human mind seeks closure. When you refuse to give it, others create stories to explain your quiet. Some will imagine you are angry. Others will think you are wise. A few will fear you. Let them. Their interpretations serve you better than your explanations ever could. Have you noticed how silence unsettles people? Ask someone a question. Then look at them, calm, wordless. Within seconds, they begin to talk faster, filling the space, exposing truths they never intended to share. They reveal motives, weaknesses, secrets. They hand you the map to their psychology, all because they feared the emptiness of your quiet. Silence is not passive, it is pressure disguised as peace. The fool confuses noise with influence. The wise man knows that stillness bends others without force. There is a reason interrogators use silence to break suspects. It amplifies guilt. It invites panic. The human mind turns inward, gnawed by the need to speak, to justify, to be understood. And in that moment of internal noise, they lose control. You must learn to cultivate that same power. Do not rush to fill conversations. Let pauses stretch longer than comfort allows. Let others reveal who they are while you reveal nothing. Each word you do not speak becomes a weapon you can later use. When you speak, make it deliberate, make it rare. A single well-timed sentence from a silent man carries the weight of prophecy. People remember it. They quote it. They fear it. The man who speaks constantly is like a sword swung wildly. He cuts, but without aim. The man who speaks sparingly is a dagger in the dark. Every strike is precise. Even in personal life, silence is sovereignty. When insulted, say nothing. Your calm disarms aggression more effectively than argument ever could. The attacker expects reaction. Deny him that satisfaction, and he begins to doubt his power. Soon, he will doubt his words, his motives, even his position. Do you see? The less you say, the more others must think. And the more they think, the more they reveal. In every relationship, silence creates asymmetry. The talker becomes the servant of his own need to be understood. The listener becomes the master of what remains hidden. In warfare, the same law applies. A commander who speaks too soon reveals his plans. A silent strategist lets rumors travel instead, each whisper serving as camouflage for the truth. Noise invites anticipation. Silence creates fear. But silence is not to be confused with absence. To remain silent while appearing attentive is the essence of command. You do not withdraw from the conversation. You dominate it by leaving others uncertain. And uncertainty, my friend, is the soil where obedience grows. So practice silence not as a retreat, but as an attack disguised as restraint. Speak only when your words will land like arrows. Sharp, timed, unanswerable. Let your quiet become the mirror in which others see their own instability. Because the most unnerving sound in the game of power is not the roar of an enemy, but the silence of a man who listens and remembers. And that silence is the threshold of the next lesson. Reality is a fragile thing. It bends under belief more easily than under truth. Men do not follow what is. They follow what appears to be. The wise learn this early. The powerful exploit it endlessly. Perception is the true currency of control. Whoever shapes what others see, rules what they think, and whoever rules thought, rules behavior. Do you believe history remembers what actually happened? Or what was made to appear noble, righteous, and inevitable? Consider this: Julius Caesar did not conquer Rome through force alone. He conquered it through theater. Every gesture, every word, every pause before the Senate was staged. When he crossed the Rubicon, he knew the act would echo louder than the battle. His soldiers became symbols, his defiance became destiny, and his image became legend. The act of perception turned rebellion into virtue. That is power. You must understand. Truth does not matter in the theater of human affairs. What matters is the performance of truth. The mask that looks convincing, the narrative that feels right, the illusion that comforts or terrifies at the proper moment. Reality is the body. Perception is the shadow that dictates how others approach it. And men, weak as they are, chase shadows. In every workplace, in every relationship, in every political campaign, perception decides who holds the crown. The competent man without charisma will always lose to the confident fool who looks certain. People would rather follow the illusion of strength than the reality of hesitation. Have you ever noticed how people interpret silence, clothing, or posture? How a single confident gesture can rewrite an entire impression? That is perception at work. The mind fills gaps with meaning, and meaning becomes belief. The wise feed that process deliberately. Perception, when weaponized, is not deceit, it is design. The purpose is not to lie, but to guide attention. To make others see what you want them to see and ignore what weakens you. The Church mastered this better than any empire. When Rome's spiritual authority began to wane, it turned to spectacle. Cathedrals were built not merely for worship but for awe. Gold incense, ritual, all carefully orchestrated to overwhelm the senses. Men left those halls believing in divine power, not because they understood it, but because they felt it. Perception became sanctity. You must learn the same craft in your world. If you wish to be respected, appear unshaken. If you wish to be feared, appear indifferent. If you wish to be trusted, appear transparent, while revealing nothing. Every interaction is a performance. The difference between manipulation and authenticity is not morality, it is awareness. The powerful perform consciously, the weak perform by accident. Ask yourself, when people look at you, what story do they see? Is it one you chose or one they invented in your absence? The danger of neglecting perception is that others will write your narrative for you, and they will not be kind authors. Even in failure, appearance decides legacy. Napoleon's empire fell, but his image as the brilliant general endures. Why? Because he curated his myth while alive. He turned defeat into martyrdom, exile into legend. The perception outlived the man. That is the highest form of victory, to dominate memory itself. Psychology confirms what rulers have always known: people act not on reality, but on interpretation. Cognitive bias, emotional association, confirmation, all tools of perception management. A skilled manipulator uses them as a painter uses color, shaping how others feel about facts rather than the facts themselves. Do you see how perception bends truth into utility? Even morality itself is shaped by perception. The same act that is condemned in a poor man is celebrated in a prince. Murder becomes justice, greed becomes ambition, deception becomes diplomacy, if the perception is framed correctly. And so, perception is not a mask you wear once. It is armor you must forge daily. It is how you present calm in chaos, certainty in doubt, control in confusion. The stronger your image, the less anyone questions your intent. Appearances are not lies. They are the tools through which reality is governed. You may tell yourself you want to be authentic, but authenticity without strategy is self-sabotage. You owe the world not your truth, but your control of it. So cultivate your image like a weapon. Let your silence be mysterious, your gaze deliberate, your presence designed. Command how you are seen, and the world will bend to your outline. Because those who fail to control perception become prisoners of it. And the next lesson is how to wield that perception with ruthlessness. Mercy is a beautiful word, dangerously beautiful. It tempts rulers into weakness and disguises cowardice as compassion. Yet history shows that power rarely belongs to the merciful. It belongs to those who know when to be merciful and when to be merciless. Ruthlessness in its purest form is not cruelty. It is precision. It is the cold discipline to strike only when the strike will echo. To be selectively ruthless is to understand timing. The heartbeat of dominance. The fool confuses mercy with virtue. The wise understand that mercy without strength is surrender dressed in silk. Think of Cesare Borgia, the man who carved his destiny from chaos. When he captured Romagna, the province was drowning in crime and rebellion. The people respected no law, no authority. So Cesare appointed his executioner, Ramiro di Orco, to restore order. Ramiro was brutal, heads rolled, fear returned to the streets. Within months, discipline was restored, and when fear had done its work, Cesare had Ramiro executed. Publicly, dramatically, leaving his corpse displayed for all to see. The message was clear: cruelty served its purpose, but cruelty uncontrolled would not be tolerated. Cesare had used ruthlessness as a tool, and discarded it once it had fulfilled its function. The people both feared and admired him. That is the art you must learn. Selective ruthlessness is the ability to act without hesitation, but never without reason. Every act of severity must serve a purpose. Random cruelty is barbarism, calculated cruelty is control. When you punish, punish completely. A half measure only invites revenge. When you remove a threat, remove it entirely. One surviving rival can undo a decade of caution. Look at the fate of King Saul. Out of pity, he spared his conquered enemies. His mercy appeared noble, but it seeded rebellion. The enemies he spared later took his crown and his life. Mercy, when misplaced, is not kindness. It is treason against your own survival. Psychology confirms what rulers have always known: humans mistake decisiveness for strength and hesitation for guilt. When you act with calm brutality, people do not hate you, they obey you. They may curse your name in private, but in public, they submit. Do you see how power functions? Men crave order more than justice. They will forgive cruelty if it brings stability, but they will never forgive weakness that brings chaos. Even in your own life, the principle stands. You must sometimes be ruthless with yourself, with your habits, your distractions, your attachments. The mind cannot grow sharper if it clings to comfort. Discipline is self-inflicted ruthlessness. Ask yourself, how many times have you delayed the necessary cut because you feared how it would look? How many poisonous friendships, unproductive routines, and draining commitments have you tolerated in the name of kindness? Every hesitation weakens you. Every unnecessary apology feeds your enemies. To be selectively ruthless is to know the difference between what can be saved and what must be sacrificed. The strategist amputates the limb to save the body. The sentimental man dies trying to keep it attached. In politics, in business, in relationships, there are moments when compassion must yield to clarity. The one who hesitates loses authority. The one who acts decisively writes history. The crowd may call you cruel today, but tomorrow they will call you effective. And effectiveness, in the language of power, is the only virtue that endures. Even nature itself teaches this law. The lion does not apologize to the gazelle. The winter does not seek forgiveness from the dying crops. Survival has no moral code. It has only outcomes. So learn to act without guilt. You are not required to please the world. You are required to master it. But do not misunderstand. Ruthlessness must never become addiction. Those who enjoy cruelty for its own sake eventually destroy themselves. True power lies in restraint, the ability to wield fear, and then to sheath it before it consumes you. The moment you strike without necessity, you lose control of the weapon. And in time, that weapon turns inward. Remember this paradox: mercy has meaning only when it comes from someone feared. A kind man is easily ignored. A feared man's kindness becomes sacred. Be both the sword and the hand that decides when it falls. Because in the game of power, mercy unguided is weakness, but ruthlessness without measure is suicide. Balance the two, and you will command loyalty through awe, not affection. The world obeys not the loud, but the decisive. Not the cruel, but the coldly rational. And in the next lesson, you will learn how that cold control begins not in domination of others, but in the conquest of yourself. Before you conquer others, you must conquer yourself. Every empire that collapsed did so first within its ruler. The loss of control does not begin on the battlefield. It begins in the mind. The hand that trembles, the voice that rises, the decision made from impulse rather than calculation. These are the cracks that lead to ruin. The man who cannot rule his own nature will forever be ruled by the world around him. You have seen it. The powerful undone not by enemies, but by desire. The intelligent sabotaged by pride. The disciplined destroyed by rage. Self-control is not mere restraint. It is the highest form of power, for it is the only dominion that cannot be stolen. Tell me, how can you command loyalty if you are a slave to your emotions? How can you bend others to your will when you cannot bend yourself? The mind is a fortress, but most leave its gates unguarded. They let anger march in, fear whisper in its halls, and vanity sit upon its throne. You must build your walls higher. You must govern your thoughts as a prince governs his city, rewarding those that serve order, exiling those that threaten stability. Consider Alexander the Great. He conquered half the known world, yet one night, drunk with pride and wine, he killed his dearest friend, Cletus, in a fit of rage. A single uncontrolled impulse shattered years of loyalty and scarred his own legend. His empire remained vast, but his soul grew hollow. That is what loss of self-command costs: the respect of others and the respect of oneself. The man who rules himself appears godlike to those who do not. His silence unsettles. His patience provokes. His composure, even in disaster, becomes a weapon more intimidating than any blade. Psychology calls it emotional regulation. Power calls it sovereignty. The wise man knows that self-control is not suppression, it is transformation. You do not bury your anger, you refine it into strategy. You do not deny fear, you shape it into foresight. Every emotion becomes a tool, not a tyrant. The world is full of those who act before they think. They lash out, they panic, they overreach. Their movements are easy to predict, easy to manipulate. A calm man surrounded by impulsive ones is a wolf among frightened sheep. When you master yourself, you become unreadable, and the unreadable man is untouchable. Look to Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, surrounded by treachery, plague, and war. Yet he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He ruled not through spectacle, but through steadiness. His calm became Rome's spine. His restraint turned chaos into order. Do you see the pattern? The rulers who last are not those who shout loudest, but those who remain unmoved when others tremble. The world bends to those who do not bend within. Control begins in small things. The tone you choose instead of the one you wish to use. the patience to listen when ego wants to interrupt, the discipline to delay reaction until the right moment to strike. Each act of restraint builds an empire within you. And when the inner empire is strong, no external storm can breach it. But self-control is not meant to make you passive, it makes you precise. The disciplined man does not lack emotion, he wields it like a blade. His anger has aim. His ambition has patience. His confidence is quiet because it has roots. In warfare, the calm general wins not because he feels less, but because he channels more. He sees beyond the noise. He acts when others are still thinking. Self-control is not the absence of power, it is the concentration of it. Think of your own life. How many mistakes were born not of ignorance, but of impulse? How many words you wish you could unsay, how many actions you regret, simply because you reacted instead of commanded? Master yourself, and those moments vanish. To control yourself is to become your own weapon. The man who governs his mind becomes immune to manipulation. Praise cannot seduce him. Insult cannot shake him. The world tries to pull him into chaos, and he stands still, watching others destroy themselves. That is true dominance, not over crowds, but over one's own chaos. When others are slaves to feeling, you will be a master of outcomes. When others chase the illusion of control, you will be control. Because power begins where reaction ends, and in the next lesson, you will learn how to use that calm mind not just to survive, but to rule. Power is never taken. It is given, piece by piece, by those too blind to see they are being guided. Control does not require chains. It requires understanding. You do not force men to obey. You make them choose obedience while believing it was their idea. Influence is not about domination. It is about direction. Subtle, invisible, deliberate. You whisper, and others move as though by their own will. The strongest rulers do not raise their voices. They plant thoughts, shape perceptions, and disappear behind the illusion of choice. Ask yourself, how many times have you followed a path that was never truly yours? How many times did you believe you decided freely when in truth, someone had already written the script? That is the true art of power, to control without claiming control. If you've seen the pattern, you are already ahead. Comment your reflections below. Let the discussion reveal who truly understands. Subscribe for more Machiavellian strategies, and share this video so others may learn how control is crafted in silence.